If you're a more timid or shy person, or you're bad at standing up for yourself, imagine that had been said to a friend of yours in your exact position. Because I can assure you, all of a sudden, you will be very, very pissed off.
Hello and welcome to My Life, My Way, a podcast for young people with disabilities to share their story about how they're taking charge of change in their own lives. My name is Brittany Wilson, otherwise known as Britt. I use the pronouns she, her, and I am a lived experience person with disability myself.
This is the My Life, My Way podcast, brought to you by children and young people with Disability Australia as part of the Take Charge of Change project. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of which these podcasts have been recorded and pay our respects to elders past and present. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
Charlotte has already done a blog for us on the Take Charge of Change website. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, thank you, Britt. Thank you for having me here. My name is Charlotte. I use she, they pronouns. I don't mind too much. I'm from regional WA, so I definitely have an interesting perspective, having been both a farm kid and also physically disabled. It's definitely an interesting mix of experiences. I've got autism, ADHD, and then fibromyalgia, which is what my blog post was mostly about. And how coming to terms with becoming physically disabled at the age of about 14 is not the easiest of processes. I write quite a lot. I'm also aspiring to go into politics someday because I just want to be able to help my communities around me in a way that we don't tend to see a lot of both representation and action. So thank you for having me, Britt.
Awesome. Well, I love that you're an aspiring politician. We need more of those that actually know where we're standing. So when we're talking about advocacy, what would you say advocacy is to you?
It's standing up for yourself. And I know that seems really cliche, but it's more than just saying, oh, I don't like this thing. It's knowing when to accept, oh, this person, if we're talking doctors, this person doesn't have the best intentions for me. Or, oh, this person doesn't believe me or think that I'm telling the truth about things. Which, as someone with fibromyalgia, which is a completely hidden disability, can get incredibly, incredibly difficult when you're trying to say to a doctor, hey, on a scale out of 10, I'm ranging between a 5 and an 8 on any particular day. Painkillers aren't working. Nothing works. I can barely walk sometimes. What can I do? And luckily, I've never had the misfortune of a doctor completely disbelieving me. But I have definitely had doctors before just dismiss things I've experienced and going, oh, but everyone has that nowadays, which is always so helpful when you're trying to get a diagnosis. But no, really, to me, advocacy just means not letting things slide that you wouldn't let slide for other people. Because I know that, and it is slightly terrifying sometimes realistically, to stand up to those who are, especially in positions of power over you, like school administrators, teachers, even your own family and friends. And I think realistically, advocacy is just making sure that it's making sure that you don't let anything happen that you wouldn't let happen to a friend or a family member.
I really love that because I will always say that I'm great at sticking up for my friends, but when it comes to myself, I need a little bit of help.
I'm my worst own enemy.
Yeah, and I love that you talk about friends and family too, because that's not often touched on very often, especially in the realms of disability, where we can tend to let friends and family get away with a lot more than we would otherwise do so. In regards to
especially if you are reliant on parents and friends for aid and for helping you live independently as well. It's it can be very difficult to deal with that.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you mentioned that. It's really amazing. When did you start attempting to advocate for yourself, do you think?
Well, I mean, in regards to disability accommodations, probably, I probably would have been around when I was about 15 or so, when I started actually realizing, oh no, this isn't just I have excruciating pain in my back because my body's decided that's what's going to happen thing. And so then that was probably realistically when I started advocating for myself, not just to my doctors going, hey, I know something is wrong, but also to my teachers and going, hey, look, I can't do all of this. Like I'm doing my best when it comes to it, but I cannot do all of it. It's just too much work for me. But realistically, I probably should have started advocating for myself when I was probably about 13, 14. Yeah, it would have been 14 in like 2022.
15 is still a really young and impressive age for you to start doing that.
Yeah, but I guess as well, considering I started using a cane at 15, I don't really have any qualms confronting people anymore because I've gotten every weird stare you can think of.
Very much understand that. As a wheelchair user, it's very out there. Oh, no.
There's also nothing quite like having hired a wheelchair for an event because I'm like, I'm not walking that far. And then watching people watch you stand up and you watch them reconsider everything they've ever thought about you. And it's like, I can walk. It just hurts. Don't want to.
I was an ambulatory wheelchair user throughout primary school. So, and then transitioned to full-time. When did it hit you that your advocacy was actually helping you in those spaces?
It was probably after I got rid of a couple doctors because they just were dismissing things that I was saying. And I managed to get myself a GP who deals with like chronic illness. And the first thing that he did was I went, hey, could I try some new pain medications? Because my old doctor wouldn't let me try anything stronger than X. And what that was something like, it was like a very low dosage of a pain of like I don't even think it was an opioid. She was like, oh, I can't give you anything stronger because I don't prescribe opioids to children. And I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. These aren't usual circumstances. I am writhing in pain. I think we can try something a little stronger. And he immediately saw this and went, oh, yeah, no, we can prescribe you those. And he went, okay, we're going to get this, and this blood test. We might send you to the long COVID clinic, but we need to get your thyroxine and your iron in check first. Otherwise, they'll send you back. And it was just this immediate thing of he didn't think anything I was saying was a lie. He didn't think I was overreacting. He just immediately went, okay, so here's our procedure. And I love my doctor for that because he's the one who's managed to get me a fibromyalgia diagnosis. He's the one who's managed to get me on medication that helps with my pain and brings it down to like a 4 out of 10 on a standard day when I'm not having a flare up instead of like between like 6 and 8.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And like he's the one he's referred me to all sorts of places. Like he's had me referred to pain specialists. He's pretty much gotten ultrasounds and of like it feels like everywhere because it's like I've had to have ultrasounds, I think even like of my chest cavity, my hips for fluid, my abdomen, my thyroid to like make sure that I did have thyroid problems, which I did. Yeah, he's been the one who's got me on medications. And never once with him have I felt like he didn't believe me, which considering prior experiences I had with doctors was like a small miracle.
That's really amazing to find someone like that. I know it's so hard to find a doctor that actually takes you seriously.
Especially considering with that, he was like, after I had to start going to a doctor like really regularly, we found him within probably a year. And within 2 years, I had a fibromyalgia diagnosis, which for fibro diagnoses is impressive. Like I've known of people who have waited a decade to get a fibromyalgia diagnosis because it's just a process of elimination.
How did you navigate that, begin that ability to stand up to your doctors and advocate for yourself in that space?
Well, it probably started with the fact that my parents, they taught me to never like stand for people treating me badly. Like there's probably a small amount of it is the fact that like my parents they were never like older people than you deserve respect. They were like, no, they deserve respect if they've earned it. And so I was always apart from the fact that I was a very, very smart child, and so I just would kind of talk rings around a lot of people. I learned very quickly to just, if someone wants you to do something you don't want to, you don't have to. I think that's also possibly because I am autistic, and so I never understood the social norms of why am I going to do this thing that I don't want to do? It's not going to happen, which means I am like weirdly not susceptible to peer pressure because I'm like, no, I don't want to do that thing. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
But no, it probably realistically, it started with my parents just teaching me to always stand up for myself and
Yeah,
to always argue my case.
that foundation of that is
Mm,
really powerful. The neurodivergence helps a little
mm.
bit in that
But
case.
even then, it still wasn't easy. Like,
Yeah.
because there's still a certain amount of societal conditioning that comes to you should respect people in positions of power over you. Um,
Hmm.
but that script doesn't say what you're meant to do when they don't treat you well.
No.
Because it's like I have had doctors who have been very rude and dismissive towards me. And luckily I wasn't the only one who saw it. Like because my mum comes to a lot of my appointments with me just for like my own comfort. And so she saw it too, and she had just immediately afterwards was like, "Hey, what was that? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No." She completely dismissed everything I said. I want a new doctor, and my mum said, "Okay, we'll find you one."
That's great.
And
That
I think part of
validation.
it's that as well is that I've never had to fight my parents to get accommodations. It's more that my parents have been willing to fight people to get me accommodations.
That's a really good support system you have there. In those situations, if someone were trying to find the confidence to have those conversations around advocating for themselves and standing up, what do you have any advice?
Um, if you're a more timid or shy person or you're bad at standing up for yourself, imagine that had been said to a friend of yours in your exact position. Because I can assure you, all of a sudden, you will be very, very pissed off. And I think you also have to think is like, what if this had happened to like any other demographic? This would be considered like some form of medical discrimination. And as soon as you register that, it tends to become a little bit easier. But my other tip is if you are worried about any of this sort of thing happening to you or you've had bad experiences with it in past, take someone to your medical appointments. It doesn't have to be a parent or a partner. It just has to be someone you trust who's like legally allowed to be there with you. Because a lot of the time as well, first off, it means if you have a second person there, you can go to them and go, hey, we both saw the same thing, right? And it's very easy then to validate your experiences and know that, no, I didn't imagine that. That did actually happen. But it's also a matter of if you get overwhelmed easily as well, as I do, because I've had multiple meltdowns in doctor's appointments, which is always an interesting experience. It's an awful experience, so don't recommend it. Is that if you have a second person there, you can like, especially if it's someone you trust, you probably already have a way of communicating with them very easily, and so you can do that, and you can get them to take over for you. But no, my best tip for if you are not good at advocating for yourself and you realize that you need to, have someone you trust with you.
Yeah, that is absolutely brilliant advice. And very much have used it in the past myself. If I've gone out of a doctor's appointment, thankfully I've hired my best friend as one of my support workers.
Mm,
So she's been to a few of my appointments with me, and I've put up with something more than I should have. And her
mm,
initial response is, "What if someone said that to me?" I'm like,
yeah,
"Oh, I would fight them."
yeah.
Um, so yes, it does. That is great advice and does help.
I tend to find as well, like if it's to do with pain being dismissed, as disabled people, like as
Mm.
well as if you're chronically ill, you have such a skewed perception of what people's normal amounts of pain are. Like
Hmm.
I didn't realize until I was, I think, either 13 or 14 that the standard amount of pain a person should have in a day is none. I just genuinely thought my parents were playing a joke on me because I'm like, that has never been my experience.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I think as well, having someone else there who doesn't have your experience of disability can very easily be like, hey, oh, that was so like not okay.
Even the high masking as well. So we tend
Mm,
not to be believed because we're very high masking
yes.
because we're
It's like
used to
just
that
because
amount
I
of
don't
pain.
look like I'm dying inside, I
Yeah.
am. I can assure you, I really want you to sedate me.
Yeah.
I did
Um,
have a small argument about my mum with that one because we went into an urgent care. I had COVID, and every time I tend to get sick these days with the fibro, it just ravages my body. because I just get like the worst like chills and like hot and cold pains. And so I was like pretty much shaking with adrenaline because of how much pain I was in. And I was like, hey, mom, can I just get them to sedate me, please? Like, just cut it. I'm done. We're done. And she was like, no, you cannot go in there and ask them to sedate you, but we can gently explain what's going on. I think as well, just having someone there, especially if you're in a state of like extreme pain or extreme discomfort, having a person there who can explain on behalf of you is actually really helpful as well, because you don't have to worry so much about being able to actually get words out.
Or even, I think I have started is writing down symptoms in my notes app, because I tend to high mask and tend to be like, no, I'm fine. And then later I'm like, actually, I had this symptom, this symptom, this symptom.
Yeah.
And I didn't bring it up. And ADHD is in one ear, out the other.
Oh, yeah, that's always a fun one. No, it's like I try my best to remember my symptoms, but I have like, I don't know what it is. I just have this objection to writing down all the symptoms I experience in a day, because I'm like, that takes too long. I can't be bothered. If it's really that abnormal or happens that often, I remember it because it sticks out in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're talking advocating for yourself, if you're still like if you're at like a school or work, anything like that, for the love of everything, please, if you need accommodations, ask for them. Like, because a lot of the time as well, what we're asking for as disability accommodations are not unreasonable. It's like, hey, I have this really bad disability that means I can't stand for hours on end. Can I have a chair so I don't have to stand for an 8-hour shift?
Yeah.
In a job where I don't need to be standing. Sorry, my dog is asleep on my bed and keeps snoring. Or as well, if you are a school student and you require like help when it comes to, hey, I need to be able to leave under these circumstances because of XYZ, you need to ask for those things, because you have to work as well under the philosophy of they don't know unless you say something. And it can be really daunting to say something, but it's still really important that you do, because otherwise you will realize a long way down the line that as well, because if you've always operated under a certain set of circumstances and you've always operated a certain way, and then all of a sudden you can't operate that way anymore, people tend to still expect you to operate how you did before, even if you're not physically capable of doing so.
Yeah.
Like I know that better than a lot of people, because I was a like academically gifted and talented student since I was about 8 years old, doing like higher like year groups worth of literacy and numeracy until I was probably about 14. Oh wait, no, until I was about 15. And so if they don't know that you're struggling with things, this just comes under anything. If your teachers or those around you don't know you're struggling with something and you don't tell them, they're never going to know until it becomes too much of a flagrant issue for you to ignore.
Yeah, and not to mention, if you keep operating at a same level for so long, you're going to put yourself in burnout.
It will burn you out.
Yeah, and then it
will burn you out, and you will feel even worse than you did prior.
Yeah, it took me a long time to learn to actually ask for help and put my accommodations in place and realize that our accommodations are a human right.
Yeah, they are very much not much to ask for as well.
Yeah,
it also took me a very long time to accept that, yes, just because you used to be a straight A student with an almost perfect attendance record does not mean you can now.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you passed all of your classes with either C's or B's on a 42% attendance rate. You're not doing that bad in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Charlotte. You've been amazing today.
Thank you.
The Take Charge of Change project received funding from the Australian Government, Department of Health, Disability and Ageing. To learn more about children and young people with Disability Australia or to become a member, please go to our website on www.cyda.org.au.